Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Workplace Delight. And this will also probably publish on the Superpower Quest. And today I get to interview, y'all are probably going to get your faces burnt off by the energy coming out of the screen.
Let's hope not.
Me and Kevin Monroe, we only know how to be on 10 together. That's it. That's all we know. But this is my friend Kevin Monroe, who is an incredible human being. He is a hope leadership catalyst and a gratitude consultant. And so you might be thinking, well, what is that? Well, we're gonna show you what is that in a little bit. Kevin, welcome to the session.
Awesome. Also, I needed to look over and put my computer in do not disturb mode because I hadn't done that yet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what if a ping, ding, or ring comes in? So that's why I looked away from Johnny. I'm so excited to join you and your amazing universe of friends. Whether we're talking about workplace delight, which is a word you and I've talked, I love that phrase, or whether we're talking about tapping into your superpower, wherever this airs, hey, just know there's a reason you dialed in to this conversation and this episode today. So stay tuned.
Man, y'all about to get encouraged today. All right. So Kevin, I asked you what's one thing you want people to know about you, and you said you'd want them to know that what you see is what you get. So can you tell us a little bit more about that statement?
Uh, yeah, right, Johnny. I mean, you and I, we've had this experience of each other, and people go, "Are you?" So I have this on my LinkedIn profile. I had this encounter with a client, 7:30 one morning, right? And I've been
Yeah.
up for hours already, and
Yeah.
and I'm showing up. I'm excited about the work we're going to do, and she looks over and she goes, "How are you today?" I'm like, "I'm great." And she wasn't a morning person. I mean, it was
Yeah.
real obvious, right? And she looks at me and she says, "Are you always like this?" And I said,
What's
"Yeah."
wrong with you?
And she goes, I I don't understand it. I'm like, "Well, we get to choose,
Come on.
right? We get to choose. So why wake up?" And I know people that wake up like this, right? They wake up and go, "Gosh, today's going to be a terrible day." I don't want that kind of day, right? Now, there are times there are times that I wake up in not so positive a frame of mind, right? That's the other thing that I want people to know, that I am. This is what you get. But you know what? And Johnny, I'm going to ask you this.
Come
I don't
on.
think we've talked about this before. When you have dark moments or dark days, do they seem particularly deep and dark?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I'm a very emotional person, right?
Yeah.
And so that works for me and it also can work against me, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is how Johnny and I choose to show up. But are we always like this? No, there are times when it's tough. There are times when life, is just throwing you some curveballs. And in those moments, we still, what I call navigate north, right? We reorient and we move towards the light.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm usually like this. But if I'm not like this, it's really bad.
But no, yeah, I bet you're not fun to be around, dude. Dude, my kids, man, because I am generally a very positive person. My kids only know me that way, right? I've got young kids under 13. And so when I'm in bad shape, like the whole house is on red alert. Like, what is wrong with dad? Like, what? Dad just snapped at me. Like, what happened? Like, my kids like lose their minds, right? And I'm just like, dude, can I have a bad day?
Right. Yeah.
But those are the stakes, right? Like, gosh, man, it's actually a good testimony that my kids get so freaked out when
Yeah.
I'm in the pit.
So yeah. Yeah. But we choose to. I just wrote this and recorded it. We choose to believe that the best is yet to come.
Yeah, come
And
on.
believing that the best is yet to come gives us hope, courage, and belief to get through those dark and difficult days. And I don't know if people that if they don't have that belief, if they don't have that hope, what do you do? I mean, you just, man, you live in despair. And Johnny, can we? Okay, so you introduced me as a hope catalyst. That is a newer term that I've
Yep.
used. I've used it in
Yep.
2025. So I've been on this gratitude quest for 7+ years now. Yeah. 7+ years now. 6+ years we've been hosting gratitude events. 5+ years we've been conducting research, collecting data that hope grows in gratitude. And as we watched, and I use this word, as we watched 2025, I've used the word unravel. It just didn't unfold. For a lot of people, 2025 has just unraveled. And people found themselves in the belly of despair, right? Just kind of overwhelmed, overcome by despair and darkness and difficulty. And people you and I have encountered, right? Life was good one day when they woke up and went to work, and by the end of the day, they were laid off and unemployed. And man, that was a right hook that they didn't see coming. And it knocks them off their feet for a moment and all of right. So there's so much despair. And I watched this unfold, or I say unravel, from January 1st forward. Right? There were terror attacks in the wee hours of January 1st in New Orleans and then Las Vegas. This happened, both of the perpetrators just happened to rent vehicles from Turo, the company, Turo.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
January 4th, I receive an email from the Turo CEO. The final paragraph says, talk about, oh my God, what a horrible start to the year. I had such high hopes. And here, the first day, right, things began to unravel. And then the apocalyptic fires in California, plane crashes 2 days in a row, right? All of these economic uncertainties and unsettlings. And people began to feel more despair and despondency than hope. So as we rolled into February and then into March, we started focusing, and we just felt we have a contribution to make, a gift to offer to help people rediscover or find hope for the very first time.
Yes.
Because hope grows in gratitude.
Yeah. Bro, man, that's some fire right now. That's some fire. Okay. All right. So, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Tim Jones for introducing. Tim Jones is the one that introduced us. Tim Jones at Longer Tables, a mutual friend of ours. Tim, if you're watching, man, we love you, bro.
Yes, sir.
You did a good one. You did a good one when you hooked us up, man. So that story that you just told, I think has the potential to really, really help people. And it harkens back to, I just yesterday did an interview with a guy named Joshua Aranda, who is also a coach, consultant, leadership consultant. But I think he would say that his key word is suffering. Like, this dude has learned to navigate, not just accept suffering. He's learned to seek out, right?
Wow.
Suffering.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't mean in the masochistic sense, but like he's an ultra runner.
Okay.
And so he'll do
That
ultra
helps
marathons.
explain it for me, Johnny.
Right. But he'll do ultra marathons, and in those ultra marathons, he gets to confront basically what he calls his demons, the baser, the darkness, the hopelessness always sets in when you're in the midst of your deepest suffering. And so he seeks out the place of his deepest suffering so that he can be qualified to walk other people through the place of extreme suffering. And so his word is suffering, but his message is also hope. And he talked, this is one thing we came to at the end of our call. Like, you can't change your feelings. Like, just like what you and I were just talking about. Like, I wake up and I have dark days. You cannot change. Like, we don't necessarily have direct control to flip our feelings on or off like a switch. But we do get to control our relationship with our feelings, right?
Yeah.
And we get to make choices about how we're going to posture ourselves towards those feelings.
Yeah.
Right? Does that register with you?
Yeah, it does. I as you were talking, I don't know if I've ever thought this before, but sometimes they come like a sniper attack, right? I mean, you just, and I had this Sunday night. All of a sudden, I was just, right? There was fear. There was despair that was wanting to settle in. Now, I can't just shake it off and ignore that. I mean, there's some real things behind that, but I can alter my relationship to it, and I don't have to succumb to it and just live. I mean, there are people that live. So I've heard despair described like this, right? The belief that tomorrow will be no better than today, probably even worse. There are people that live like that, right? From day to day, they just think, man, I'm having a horrible day today, and tomorrow's going to be even worse. Well, the opposite of that is believing the best is yet to come. Right? And as people of faith, there's a reason for having that kind of hope. That hope is not just, hanging
Positive thinking, yeah.
yeah, attached to a cloud floating by. No, there's a real basis for that kind of hope, and we anchor our hope in that. And then, but it does help us to, regulate our emotions better.
Yeah, man. So now this reminds me of the hope dealer, Rob Maddox, who I introduced you to, right? And you got, you know,
Okay, so let's just pause a moment.
yeah.
Right? Folks, if you don't understand that this is how the world works, the way I said it years ago, Johnny, was this. You don't know everybody you need to know, but everybody you know knows somebody you need to know.
Oh
Let me
man,
say that again, right?
say it
You
again,
don't
bro.
know. You don't know everybody you need to know. But everybody you know knows somebody you need to know. So
Yes, sir.
Tim Jones saw and knew the two of us needed to meet, right? And so we met. And then just a few weeks ago, you introduced me to Rob. And, I didn't know I needed to know Rob.
Yeah,
But the moment I met Rob, I
yeah.
knew I needed to know Rob, right?
Yes,
And all
sir.
of a sudden, man, just things just started ratcheting up. And when somebody makes the kind of introduction, like like um, like Tim made for us, or like you made for Rob, man, those conversations, they start at the 50-yard line, right? I mean, you're not in the end zone just trying to get. All of a sudden, you're at the 50-yard line. There's just something about it. And Rob and I have had several exchanges, conversations, text messages, LinkedIn messages, right? And it's just a rich relationship. So thank you for that introduction. But what did you want to say about Rob?
Dude, man, that's, you know what? Like, even that, like, that's a theme with the superpower quest. That's a theme. I'm a super connector. I would say you're also a super connector, right? Like, we think in terms of connection. We actually believe in the power of connection, right? Like, my life has been radically changed
Radically.
by connections, and for the better, right? And we're talking about, my life has been changed financially. My life has been changed in terms of effectiveness and learning. My life has been changed in terms of my marriage. All these things, right? I wrote a book because of a connection that Manny Pollard made to Alan Briggs. Man, that's why I have a book in the world.
So let's pause. I want to pause and say, that one of the most generous acts you can do for a friend is introduce them to somebody that you think they need to know, and that both parties in this introductions both will benefit from knowing each other. That's one of the most gracious, kind, and generous things you can do, is use your relational capital and share it with others freely. It's not, there is no transaction to this. There is no debit and credit system that we're trying to manage. It's just like, and as a super connector, and I know this to be true, the moment you think these two people need to know each other, all of a sudden it's your mission on the planet to make that connection happen, right, Johnny?
Correct, man. Yep. And then there's the joy that you get from having it go well, right?
Yeah.
Because I
That's
think
amazing.
you and I both believe that, I think most of the time we think that our problem is a what problem, like we're facing a problem, a big issue, a challenge. We think it's a what problem, and we don't know that it's actually a who problem, right? Like, that there is a who, there is an individual, there is a person who is uniquely gifted with a superpower to help
Yeah.
you make exponential progress in an area of need.
Yeah.
Um,
And the other thing that I would say, when those kinds of introductions are made,
yeah,
the level of trust with which those relationships and conversations starts. That's what I mean when I say it starts on the 50-yard line, right? I mean, there's just this level of trust that is given, and that it's not earned, it's just given. It's given because the person that you know knows them. And so, I mean, I write this to people a lot in a LinkedIn message. You're friends with my friend Wade, so obviously you're in the good humans club, right? I mean, just obviously, uh, because
I'm
I
still
know
at.
who you know, and
Yeah,
they only know good people. So just that, it's called the halo effect,
the
right?
halo.
Because you're a friend of Johnny's, then you're a good person. And when Johnny says, meet Rob, I'm not going in all guarded up. I'm not going in wondering, what's behind this. No, you just go in, guard down. Trust is up. You go with a
Yeah,
high level of trust
yeah.
because someone has made that gracious introduction.
Man, this is huge. So now for those who wanted an introduction to Kevin, you've gotten a chance to experience Kevin, right? And so what you get with Kevin is you get radical joy, radical enthusiasm, radical warmth, right? Safety, positivity, radical gratitude, right? You strike me as a man who's you've lived some years and you've seen some things, you
Yep.
know. You've seen some things. You got some white in the hair and the beard, right?
A
Like you've
lot
been
of it
alive.
was earned.
Yep. And but you haven't become a person who is grumpy and small and dried up, right? And although I'm sure that you've seen your share of suffering and pain. Um,
Johnny, in the last week, just in the last week, so I didn't know who this guy was. Nick Cave.
mhm.
Do you know Nick Cave? He's an artist. He's a musician from Australia. And he has this group, Nick Cave and the Bad Seed. But Nick Cave, a week ago today, somebody tagged me in a post, or they sent a video to me. My friend Steve sent me a video. He had just seen this in his Instagram feed. Nick Cave on Stephen Colbert. And Nick Cave, I believe, lost a child, and it changed him. And he's written a book, co-written a book, Faith, Hope, and um, it's an whatever the next word is really, it's not faith, hope, and love. It's faith, hope, and anyway, you're looking it up. We'll get there.
Yep. And carnage, faith, hope, and
Carnage. I
carnage.
was gonna say it's faith, hope, and carnage, right? But I heard him on this video. He was so for years now. He's written letters back to fans, and he calls it the red something. People can write him a letter, and he reads a letter on Stephen Colbert that somebody asked him, "Have you lost all faith in humanity? Right? Have you just given up?" And he said, "Hope is a warrior emotion." And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought that
Come
before.
on, buddy.
Right? Hope. Man, you're not being Pollyanna-ish to believe in hope. You are believing that faith, hope, and love are powerful forces, which
Yeah.
we know to be true,
Yeah.
because the Apostle Paul said, "Now abide faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love." But I was talking to a hope researcher in the last month. And he was talking about, he said, hope made the big three, faith, hope, and love. I said, oh, it just didn't make the big three. It's right in the middle that holds faith and love together, right? There's
Man.
hope
Oh man.
that faith, hope, and love. But what about hope as one of the most courageous stances you can take? That hope is a warrior stance. Oh, and then he went on to say, and it was something you said there, hope is the antidote to cynicism.
Mm.
And when he said that, I'm like, oh my gosh. It caused me to pause and reflect and to realize I'm not nearly the cynic that I used to be. 30 years ago, I was very cynical about
Yeah.
everything, right? I
Yeah.
was just so cynical.
Yeah.
But hope is an antidote to cynicism. And hope is a warrior emotion.
Okay, so let's I got to pull on this thread. Why were you cynical 30 years ago?
Hurts in life, disappointments in people.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I got burned in church politics and realized that a career in vocational ministry what wasn't going to serve me well in life, that I could go do something else. Yeah, so a lot of that was the ground of my cynicism.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what was your process of transformation there? Like how did that begin for you?
Um, well, okay, so there was okay, pulling back
Yep.
25 years ago. Um, I heard Jim Collins right when Good to Great had come out.
Ooh, that book is so good.
Right when Good to Great had come
Yeah.
out, I happened to be in a leadership program, and we were at the Carter Center in Atlanta, and there are about 150, maybe 200 of us. We're spending a half day with Jim Collins as he is unpacking this book. And I just vividly remember when he talked about the Stockdale principle, right? And Admiral Jim Stockdale was the highest ranking officer in the Vietnam War. And he, Jim Collins talked about
He was a prisoner of
Stockdale
war.
paradox.
Yeah, he was a
Stockdale
prisoner of
paradox is what it is. Jim Collins said they are walking across. So on this weekend, Jim Collins is going to be with Admiral Jim Stockdale on Monday. This weekend, he's reading the book In Love and War, which were letters that Stockdale and his wife had exchanged during his time of imprisonment.
Wow.
And reading this, there were moments, and Jim knew the end of the story because he said, I know I'm meeting the guy on Monday, so I know he got through all of this, but I felt so much despair, right? So the Stockdale paradox, let me see if I can
Oh yeah.
pull it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Stockdale, it's so Jim Collins is telling this, right? I'm not just reading, I'm hearing Jim Collins telling us. And he says, I'm walking across a USC campus, I believe it was, and Stockdale still walks with a cane. And all of a sudden, he stopped. He turned towards me. He turned me towards him, grabbed my shoulders, grabbed me by both shoulders. And so here's what he asked Stockdale. Stockdale said, I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which in retrospect I would not trade. And then Collins says, I didn't say anything for many minutes. We continued the slow walk toward the faculty club. Finally, about 100 meters of science, I asked who didn't make it. And that's when Stockdale grabbed him and says, oh, that's easy. The optimist. The optimist, I don't understand. I said, now completely confused given what he had said 100 meters earlier. The optimist, oh, they were the ones who said, we're going to be out by Christmas. Christmas would come and then Christmas would go. They'd say, we're going to be out by Easter. Easter would come and Easter would go. Then on Thanksgiving, and it would be Christmas again. And they died of a broken heart.
Oh.
Another long pause and more walking. Then he turned to me and said, this is a very important lesson. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Right? So this hope is that determination, that dogged determination that no matter how bad things are right now, better days lie ahead. The best is yet to come, right? So that's a warrior emotion. That's not mamby-pamby, wishful thinking, which is how some people relegate hope. Oh, it's just wishful thinking. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's determined belief. And it powers you to go through really tough stuff that you might not otherwise have the courage and the strength to persevere.
All right, man. That's powerful. So that was a moment that named you. That was a moment,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because I'm assuming. So then you see that comes into your mental sphere, right? Your heart sphere, and what happened to you, um, coming into contact with that truth?
You know, I just okay. So I'll back up, right? Yeah. Well, I got fired from a church, right? Out of church politics. Out of church politics. No scandals, just church politics. Different belief in things. I took quite literally the command to care for those who couldn't care for themselves, and they started coming to our church, and they weren't welcome in our church. And I realized I understand a mandate differently than
Hmm.
the folks here understand the mandate.
Yep.
So anyway, what's interesting, and I'll do this broadly. I had prepared for something, a future that now was ending, and I thought it was the end of the road,
Yes.
right? And then with a little bit of perspective, I discover it was a bend in the road, right? But at that moment, it just seems like, gosh, I'm at a dead end. I don't know what to do. And my father, who was a wise man, but not highly educated in the formal systems, but a wise man nonetheless, he just reminded me over and over, Kevin, you have amazing people skills. And you have what we call in our family the Monroe work ethic, right?
Hmm.
You just work hard. You
Hmm.
you keep showing up, and with that, you will succeed in anything you or whatever you choose to do. You can succeed in that. So it was the belief of others. Oh gosh, Johnny, I was fishing for that answer. I didn't have that answer when you asked me the question, but I think everybody watching this, because you're leadership people, you know that there was a time when somebody saw something you were capable of, and they saw potential in you that you could not yet see in yourself. And you did not have that belief alone. And somebody birthed belief in you for something better, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that they loaned you their belief in you until you could find that belief for yourself. So
Wow.
it's having people like that, having somebody. And, the other thing I would say, a lot of this comes by invitation, right? And just being open enough, maybe even crazy enough to say yes to really what seem like bizarre invitations, things that may not really make sense, but you just say yes, and you step out and you give it a go again. So
You
lots
take
of that.
you take a risk.
Take a risk. Oh
You do
man.
something that's
Okay.
outside of your
Whew.
comfort zone.
Okay. So now that comes back. That brings something back to mind that's really a pivotal moment on this journey. A friend of mine and this was a friend that I was really surprised was inviting me to a church, because he wasn't really the church going type, but he invited me to a church, and it was a vineyard church. I don't know if you know the vineyard
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
Okay,
Familiar
it
with
was a vineyard church, and we're there. And that Sunday, the pastor was preaching a sermon on faith, and he referenced John Wimber, the founder of the Vineyard Church, who spelled faith Risk.
it.
And,
Man.
and I remember this guy saying, and at that moment, I thought there was a bullseye right here, and that this arrow was aimed right here or here, either one, head or heart, said, for some of you, the greatest risk is to take no risk at all. You went down a path that didn't turn out the way you had thought, and you're giving up, right? You just think it's all over. The greatest risk is to take no risk at all. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's talking to me. That's where I was at in that moment. And I just thought I was at the end of the road. And then it's like, oh gosh, what if I'm willing to take another risk? And what if I'm willing to step out, unsure of the destination and somewhat unsure of the direction, but just take a step and then the next step? So I used to tell people, you just need to figure out the next right step to take. And Johnny, I took one word out of that phrase, because sometimes people that are prone to overthinking, any of you out there, right? We can overthink right step forever and end up not taking any steps. So sometimes it's just take a step. It doesn't have to be the right, just take a step. And in that time, I heard a guy from the UK say this, how much it's really difficult to steer apart.
Yeah.
Just get moving, right? Course correcting is easier when you're moving. If you're just sitting there waiting to have the whole map laid out before you take the first step, well, you're not going to get very far on that journey.
So you have like your message is super clear, right? So I understand. I know that you get into a room and you electrify a room. You get a group of people together and people feel safe to be authentic and to be real about what's really going on. And through that, through your experience, through your gift, through your enthusiasm, through you as the gift, you're able to help people access gratitude and hope in community. In community,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
you build communities. That's how you do it, right? Um, and and you give that gift because you are that gift. That's what I keep finding. That's what I keep finding is that we give the gift that was given to us, right? The gift that was given to me was this kind of radical struggle for identity in which I hated myself.
Hmm.
And people along the way, and how did you put it? The belief of others. You said the belief of others. People along the way let me borrow their belief in me, that there was something good,
Yeah.
that there was
Yeah.
a superpower, that I wasn't just all broken parts. Um,
I
and
see something coming here, Johnny, on the
yeah,
horizon, but well,
yeah,
I'll wait.
right. So then, I came to not only understand and appreciate, but to actually love the way that I'm designed, right? And to also be comfortable with my weaknesses. That's the gift that I give to others, right? I call other people. I believe everybody has a unique superpower. Everybody has value and
Right.
worth, and I try to help
Absolutely.
that. The gift that you were given was this radical perspective shift, right? At a time when you thought everything was over and done with, um, you found that hope and gratitude are a choice, and you were able to enter into that for a lifelong radical result.
Yeah. Oh
And
man.
that is the gift that you give to other people,
This is
right?
so good. This is so good. Yeah.
You're qualified to give that gift to other people because you can speak it from your guts because
Right.
it's who you
What
are.
some people call moral authority, right? We've earned that right because we've walked that walk and lived that
Correct.
life.
Right. Yes. Yep. Ethos is another way to put
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do you bring that to bear for companies and teams and organizations, which is kind of if we're the workplace delight, right? Because
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
how your message is relevant to every
Yeah.
human and employee
Yeah.
that's ever lived. Um, so how
Yeah.
do you
Okay.
help? Yeah.
So what's interesting right now, the era in which we find ourselves in 2025, right? In February, Gallup released a global study that the number one thing followers need and want from leaders now is hope.
Ooh, come on, full circle.
56% of the responses. The next highest response was trust, and that was at 38%, I believe. 56% of followers said we need hope. Now let me explain the difference between hope and optimism, because this is what's so important. And there's so many leaders who are optimists. And gosh, I describe myself as a perpetual optimist because I am. But there's a distinction. Optimism can be just this generalized belief that things are going to get better, that everything's going to be okay. Hope is a specialized belief, and there are a couple of core elements. Did you know there's a hope science? This hope science has been studied since the 80s. C.R. Snyder was one of the originators of hope science. And there are three core tenets to hope science. And okay, it's kind of funny that I'm going to quote C.R. Snyder, and I'm going to modify a phrase that Jim Collins made popular. C.R. Snyder says, number one, you got to have a goal. But now I'm going to say, in times like these, that goal doesn't necessarily need to be BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, because that can be paralyzing. It's so far out there. So the goal has to be compelling, but it has to be within reach, believable that we can get there. So premise one, there is a goal that is attainable. Key point number two in hope science is the belief in agency, that something I can do changes that outcome, right? So that's where pardon me, that's where it distinguishes from optimism. Optimism is just this generalized belief that everything's going to be all right. Hope believes in agency, that there is something you and I can do to make it better. Not just it's going to be all right, but there's something we can do. The third part is pathways thinking.
Risk fits there. Risk fits there.
Risk, right?
Risk fits right there.
Pathways thinking, that there's
Right.
more than one way to get from here to there. And if we hit a roadblock, we're going to find another way. We're going to reroute. We're going to navigate north. So those are kind of like the key principles. But for me, when you take agency, the belief that you can do something, and you combine it with action, you do something. You just don't believe there's something I can do. You take action. So imagine the leader in front of a team that just goes, yeah, I mean, we're in as difficult of times as I've ever seen since I've been with the company. But you know what? Hey, we're going to get through it. Everything's going to be okay. What kind of hope does that create, right? It doesn't create a lot of hope. If people are, okay, it's going to be, but compare that with the leader who says, wow, yeah, tough times. But you know, here's our goal. Here's what we believe is still attainable, achievable this year. And here's one action plan we're going to take. And I'm going to share what I'm going to do, and I'm going to invite you in to figure out what's your piece of us moving through and navigating forward. And if we hit a roadblock, we'll try something else, right? I mean, that's hope. It motivates people. It doesn't cause them just to sit back and be passive and go, okay, so I'm just going to wait for that, for everything to settle down. It's not going to settle down. We have to do something. So this idea. So what we do with, and then the other thing, when we started this around gratitude, it's the belief that every person on the planet, every person in the workplace wants to feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated.
Yes.
And when and where employees feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated, guess what? They show up and they do great work. And they give their creativity. They give extra effort, discretionary effort. They are engaged employees. All of these things that companies say they want, they happen when people feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated. And then if you find yourself in a tough time, use that gratitude to fuel hope that we will get through. It's kind of like what James Stockdale said, right?
Yep.
Hey, man, this is really tough, but this is going to be the defining moment. Our team will be better than we've ever been as a result of navigating this current crisis. Who's with me on that, right? And people are going to go, I'm in.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've activated their agency. So back to, we said a few moments ago, there's somebody who has given us their belief in us before we had it in ourselves. There's sometimes that people have lost their sense of agency, their sense of hope, and they need somebody to remind them, hey, what we do matters, and you have a gift that's important to our team, and we invite you to bring your gift and put it to work on our team and help us navigate through this current season of difficulty.
All right, this is huge. Okay, so I'm going to try to get really concrete and tactical here, in which you and I are both big picture dreamer people. So I'm going to try to bring this down a little bit. So when you are working with a company, are you typically working with the leaders of the company, the leadership team, an individual leader, or are you actually speaking this message to employees and to the team, or is it all of the above? What's your sweet spot?
I work with all of the above, but I love working with a leadership team, right? And
Okay.
so in some organizations, this is the senior leadership team, and we've started at the top and we're cascading through. Other times, it's just the leader of a division, right? So I've done a lot of work with a one of the global leading companies with their Latin America division.
Yeah.
And I've known this leader, JC is the leader. I've known JC for, I guess, 15 years now. And
Yeah.
I knew him when he was at another company. And we did some amazing work there. And then he found his way to this amazing company that everybody here knows. And we worked with his complete leadership team at first. And what we did, so here's a funny one. I'd been working with him a couple of years. And in June of that year, 2 years ago, JC says to me, he says, Kevin, I want you to be at our July event, and I believe you've got something new to bring to my team. And I pitch an idea, and he goes, no, that's not it.
I believe you.
Okay. So my wife and I were going to her sister's in the mountains for 4th of July weekend. And that Friday afternoon, there was about an hour and a half when everybody was just doing their own thing. The girls had gone out somewhere, and I'm just sitting on the porch, and I'm just enjoying the beauty of nature. And I had my phone nearby. Maybe I had a notebook nearby, or at least close enough to go get. All of a sudden, Johnny, I'm sitting there, and I respond back. I think back to a conversation that I had in March of that year with another leader of a global pharmaceutical company. And I was there to help their team learn how to maximize moments, right? Because these moments happen every day, moments of peak performance, of people doing extraordinary achievement, and most leaders just miss them. But we had a conversation in the hall, and he said something, and I'm sitting there on that porch that Sunday, that Friday afternoon, all of a sudden it hit me. It's like, oh my gosh, I got my notebook, I sketched this out, and it uses a 500-year-old practice by St. Ignatius called the Daily Examine.
Ignatius was a boss, man. I love Ignatius's story, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the examine that you ask yourself 4 questions in the morning
Yeah.
to set your intention for the day, ground the day in gratitude, and then at the end of the day, you reflect back and you say, how do I do with my intentions today? And here's one of the key parts of the Ignatian examine, EXAMEN, if you're listening, want to look it up. Not examine, MINE, but MEN. If I didn't do so well today, and I happen to be a person prone to rumination, to reliving all of my failures. No, just forget that. Just forget that. Set the intention that tomorrow I want to do better in this area. So what we did, so I'm sitting there, I sketched this out in 30 minutes. It's like, oh my gosh, what if we did this? Pulling on Stephen Covey's wisdom, that there are 3 big rocks, or, for most people, there are about 3 primary tasks that you do every day. The bulk of your time is spent around these 3 big buckets,
Really?
big rocks. So we help people identify these 3 tasks, and then we set out on a 21-day journey. What if I look at my the week ahead? So this is done at a week level and it's done at a day level. Looking the week ahead, I'm just looking my 3 big tasks, and in this organization, their 3 big tasks were correspondence. 250 emails a day is what most of the leaders did. Conversations, one-on-one or small group conversations, or big meetings and presentations. So then we just asked them, okay, look at your calendar, what's coming the week ahead, and what are the opportunities in each of those 3 areas where you could infuse gratitude into your correspondence, infuse gratitude into your conversations, infuse gratitude. And so we called it this 21-day gratitude infusion journey.
Yeah.
Johnny, the results are remarkable. because this is highly customizable for each person to identify, well, here are the
Dude, I
three
love it.
big things I do. Here are the three buckets of time I spend every day. So we help them identify that. And then we created this structure that starts with the morning, with a daily intention in the morning, with a daily inspiration, and that the intention is the same all 21 days. The inspiration changes morning and evening, and then we just lay it out in a workbook for people to start their day in gratitude, to look at the day ahead and kind of go, okay, here's how I want to show up for my people today. Here's where I want to infuse gratitude into my leadership and my leadership task. Then at the end of the day, we invite them into 3 to 5 minutes of mindful reflection, lead them through a little mindfulness practice. Look back on the day. What do you choose to celebrate from today? Powerful question. What do you choose to celebrate from today? What went well, right? What didn't go as well as you would have liked it to? And then set your intention for tomorrow. Right? So we set this out on 21 days, and then on the weekend there's a little few moments to look back on the week, right? And then re-up. So it's so powerful because this is something you can do. I mentioned my friend Wade. Wade is the CEO of a physicians group. And in conversations, gratitude, it's not one more thing you're asking leaders to add to their list. It's a filter that you're asking them to adopt that changes everything they do on their list,
All right,
right?
say that again. Say that again. Say
Okay,
that one more time.
gratitude is not one more thing to add to your list of tasks. Gratitude is this filter, this outlook, this mindset that changes the way you do everything. So, Wade and I talking about this. So, imagine a surgeon getting ready to go in on to operate, getting ready to go in the operating room. We're not saying, now write everybody a thank you note and hand them a note. No, but how much time does this take? How much time? That the surgeon just looks around the room and the surgeon just goes, oh my, I'm so excited and I'm so grateful, blessed, whatever word they want to use, that I get to work with this talented team of individuals. You
Yes.
are each leaders in your field, and
Yes.
I know we're going to produce an extraordinary outcome for this patient today because you are people of excellence and you give your best. Okay, how much time did that take?
10 seconds.
What's the impact of those 10 seconds on those people?
Man, if your perspective is changed and the way you relate with those people is going to be different, potentially, right? Yeah,
So what if, I mean, that's what infusing gratitude is like,
that
right?
makes
It's
sense.
just bringing this to where it's top of mind and you're looking for any opportunity. So, the way I say it with folks with email is don't outsource your gratitude. Turn off your auto response. When we're saying infuse gratitude in your email, we're not just saying now you change your auto signature to say gratefully.
No, no, no.
We're saying turn off your auto signature for this 21 days. And as many emails as possible in the day, just take 5 to 7 seconds and write a personal line as you're closing it. Man, I'm grateful you're on the team. I'm so glad I get to work with you. You're such a valuable. Wow. I mean, again, how much time does that take? It's just a few seconds. But the impact of that is extraordinary. You start a meeting and you just say, hey, as we start this meeting today, what can we just celebrate? What's the best thing that's happened for our team since we were together last? Or what's something amazing our clients have done with our product, with our tools, with our resources that we want to celebrate? Or who's somebody on the team that did something for you that no one else knows about and you want to give them a shout out for it? Right? These are all simple, uber practical ways to infuse gratitude into your leadership that makes a world of difference. I hope that answers the question.
It does, man. That's awesome. So as we're coming to a close here, I'd love to hear what is your advice or wisdom that you'd give to leaders, because a lot of the people that are coming to either newsletter are leaders, people who are seeking to lead better, lead their teams better, and to create happier spaces their work teams, their families. What advice would you give to leaders specifically? Um, uh, Steps that they can take
So
now to become better leaders in the way that you teach.
yeah, I would encourage you. I would invite and encourage you, leader, to take a moment of silence and stillness in the morning before things get crazy, before you check your phone, before you start down that path. What if you just take a moment and you just find something that you're grateful for in the last 24 hours, 12 hours, whatever that is, right? You just look back, or in the moment, what are you excited about? And so the way we teach this, Johnny, it's so simple, right? I mean, we call it the Gratitude Advantage Framework. Here's a little triangle: pause, notice, express. So just pause. So I'm gonna two things as you're listening now, because this is a note I made a few moments ago when you said something. Pause. Whether you're just looking around, you're looking back on the last portion of your day, you're noticing the goodness, and then you're expressing that with you're speaking it out. You're sending someone a text, whatever that is. But specifically, so that's general. But pause, notice, express. Start your day with that. And then whenever you find, and this, I mean, you can do this in 60 seconds, 90 seconds, mid-morning break, afternoon, just pause and just activate your mind to notice something good and then express gratitude for it. Now, we talked about who believed in you when you couldn't believe in yourself, before you believed in yourself. If someone came to mind that was that person in your life, send them a message today. Call them, send them a text.
Yes, yes, yes,
Just
yes.
say, hey, it came to mind that you believed in me when I wasn't able to believe in myself or had lost belief in myself. And I just want to say thank you. And it could have been years ago. It could have been last week. But if you pause, notice that person and express your gratitude for them. I had a lady from the Netherlands send me a message last week that she had done this and she had thanked a mentor from 10 years ago. And I haven't heard back yet. I said, but I can't wait to hear, because I promise you that here's the number one response people get when they send a message like that. Oh my gosh, you made my day.
Yeah, no, that's
You made
beautiful,
my
dude.
day. So
It's so good. It's so good. I love that little tip, and really a transformative tip, because I think what you're saying is that as leaders, if we want to cause gratitude and hope to filter down through the organization, it starts with
it starts with you.
a transformative view
Yep.
that causes me to interact with people differently. Because that's how you teach people, right? Like you can invite people
Yeah.
into what you are doing, as opposed to instruct people. It would be tough to instruct people to have
Right. It's
hope.
more caught than taught.
Yeah,
And
we're
as
caught to talk.
a leadership mentor of mine who has been deceased for a number of years now, what she said, your example is your best teaching tool.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
example. So just do
right.
it, right? Just do it. And you don't
Thank
even
you.
have to tell people you're doing it, right? You don't have to tell people I'm now expressing gratitude to somebody. No, they'll notice.
Yes, they will. Yeah.
They'll
No,
notice, and then maybe they'll ask, "Is something changed about the way you're leading?"
and there it
That's when you
is.
get to tell them. So, Johnny, thank you,
Man,
brother.
so you did this. This was an amazing time. Everybody, Kevin Monroe, my friend, catalyst, enthusiast, change maker, and giver of the gift of gratitude, the gift that he is to others. We appreciate you, and everybody else who was able to stick with us to the end. Thanks for sticking with us to the end. We appreciate you, and we're grateful for you. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.